Well, I was browsing the forums today on crowfall.com, and unbeknownst to me, there was another 10-page Valor post with pictures this time.
They just happened.
What? Where did this one come from? Were you trying to sneak that, like, in there for me? Like, I'm having a great weekend, it's nice out, and apparently you were just trolling people with it, I guess, because I was about to say, Valor, what are you doing?
It was a slow play. It was a slow
You're making
play.
a thread about a thread that already existed, and it was the same topic. Why do you do this?
To some extent. So,
why are you making Pan's job harder?
Not entirely. They're making their own job more difficult. But no. So there's a lot of consternation about some of the stuff going on with the community side of Crowfall, and I thought I would make light of the situation.
No, that never happens.
And affirm that, all is not lost. We can still have fun. The game won't die. And somewhere along the line, that message was lost. Everyone assumed that the thread was complaining. And then, then Todd shows up, like 3 days later.
I think we're going to talk about this in the show, but I just wanted to chastise you for doing it one more time and then not inviting anybody about it. You're so proud of yourself,
and
you're like
a old Britney Spears.
Can you
Thread
link
Ninja.
this just in case people haven't seen it?
How do people not seen it?
Yeah,
that's the story.
It's really the only,
AKA me.
All right, guys. This is Crowns and Crows and Crowfall podcast. Dragon here tonight with Lakes and Valor. Lakes actually able to join us. We weren't sure, but he's in the midst of a move, and he made it happen. So that's why his background's a little different. He's not in the kitchen anymore, and we're eagerly.
People are upset.
Maybe, because, that was your thing. That was definitely your thing. It's time for the rundown. We are halfway to the next stretch goal. I think when I look about an hour ago, we were at 49%. The Shadow, here we come. Apparently the forums are just going downhill, and no one's going to like this game ever again, according to some people with 1,500 posts on a forum about a game that hasn't been released yet. Gordon Walton had something to say, and I'm paraphrasing here. You guys are dumb. And I said everybody just needs to go out and have a nice weekend and relax. And then Valor, of course, has to make another thread. I think that's where the tie-in was. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple different things. I think this might have been the most difficult show to come up with topics with, because we managed to find them. We're going to talk about what's the best way to release new content for cash from the Crowfall standpoint. Somebody brought up on the forums, and it was actually an interesting topic to discuss. Most MMOs have expansion packs to make their money along with a cash shop. How does Crowfall fit in with all of that? We're going to talk about that first. We're also going to talk about, does a game like Crowfall actually need lore? It's a good question to ask. Even games like League of Legends have lore, but does Crowfall actually need it? What is the most frustrating part of the community so far for you? What has made you facepalm the most? And late entry here, we're going to talk about some of the question requests that are coming in for the next combat chat. I posted a lengthy novel in the forums, and maybe if we have some time, we're gonna touch upon that just a little bit. So, gentlemen, I think the topic at hand that we should start at the top here is, because we've talked about it before, is what's the best way to go for Crowfall to make money? And let's keep this topic away from the Eternal Kingdoms, because I think we've killed that so far with different things that they can sell through there.
Hopefully we've killed it. And
well,
Warcraft has as well.
Well, we've seen how they're going to make cash with the Eternal Kingdoms.
It's obvious.
Because you can buy stuff already for the EK right now. So, we don't have to talk about it because we know what's going to happen. So, let me set the scene here, so to speak. It's 1 year, 2 years after release. How is Crowfall making a large sum of money in the shape of what would be an expansion? We'll start with you, Valor.
If Crowfall wants to continue to see prolonged success, I think that they're going to have to release some form of content. Guild Wars 2, or we'll say Guild Wars. They did their content packs.
That's PvE game though.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to just kind of recap. What are some options? We've got the Guild Wars model. Lake, with League of Legends, and I assume the other MOBAs, they do it as well. They just introduced new characters. What are some of the other options out there?
Well, you have expansions. You have releasing like certain content at a cost.
Like what, though?
So if they want to release a new rule set, you have to pay to unlock it. I'm not saying these are actually options. I'm just running through options in my head. Other thing could be like new archetypes or new disciplines in order to buy them, but then that could be kind of be construed as
that's definitely pay to win. Yep.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think expansions might be something, but then it's what would they put an expansion
exactly.
in? Maybe a new type, like a new Dregs style of play or something.
I had some thought on that, and you can do. I believe you can do archetypes. I mean, League of Legends does that pretty well by releasing new champs, and you have to buy them. That doesn't alter a player's experience unless the design and archetype that's just either way too good or way too essential. So if they make a different version of a damage dealer, you've got plenty of options for damage dealing. This one's just different and more fun to some people. You can do that way. Disciplines and runes and all that other stuff, that's too pay to win, because those might be too key. I think those have to definitely be in the form of, getting them in game is normal. You can't make rule sets. I mean, I think that's a good direction to go in, but I don't think you can make rule sets, only because are you going to have enough people buy into it and to be able to populate those things? Like, what if, 30 out of 10,000 people buy it? Are those 30 people going to now not be able to play the content they just purchased? So, expansions, no. It's PvE stuff. So I think it's, I mean, we've touched upon this before. It's basically going to be skins, I think. Cosmetic stuff. I think
being able to buy already into concepts they have released already. Like the pay-to-lose feature, it's not going to gain them a large amount of money, but allowing people to pay to pull their character out of a campaign instead of being campaign locked,
like microtrans
could
stuff.
Be an option. I know that they talked about it in one of our interviews. That it was like a joked around thing, but I think that's another way to...
A campaign pass. That's what they're going to call it. There it is.
To kind of get out of a situation where you have the Uncle Bob and it's not supposed to take effect, but it's a way to end it. And if they can attack different features like that, I think that's going to be a good buy-in. But I think majority of their model is going to have to come off of cosmetics and skins and different weapon skins or something like that to make their normal items. Because when you go into a large battle, sometimes you don't want to use your best items, but you still want to look stylish and good.
Sure.
And sell a little skin pack, toss it on that set of armor that you're wearing, almost like what Path of Exile does, where you can make your character look different and still have different kinds of armor, whether it be newbie armor or whatever the case might be. It still looks pretty cool, and I think that could be a feature they could do.
I'm going to say that one thing that I think they could go with is they could go with different campaign maps, different styles of campaign maps.
What do you mean? Different biomes?
Something along those lines where you can look at a lot of the FPS games, and they just put out new maps, but you could have different styles. That was one of the things that Guild Wars 1 did with their.
But how do you make sure enough people buy it so it's populated enough, and you get your money's worth?
Sales?
Well, I mean, you'd have to base that off of how many people are actually in the game.
Let's say, even if a campaign has 200 people or 1,000 people or whatever, you're really limiting the amount of people that can join that campaign if you've only purchased this. I mean, it's a good idea, but are you going to get the same experience as everybody else? I mean, that's what you have to consider, though.
I don't know how difficult it would be to do this, but I mean, it could technically render based off of what package you own. I don't know. This is again. I threw out the idea. Yeah, I said that it's something that people could get into. That's a really big technical question that I couldn't answer.
What about VIP only campaigns? Lakes, were you nodding your head at me, or is it one of your?
I was actually, when you mentioned VIP, that's what I was saying would probably be their best and most effective method, is using some of the stuff that they have now and maybe tweaking it and revamping it to get a little more money. Because right now VIP is nice to have, but once someone reaches their set amount of characters and they're kind of maxed out and their passive training doesn't really even mean anything anymore, then why would someone pay towards VIP?
I think if they're taking their pace from Eve, there's always going to be some goals to train for your 4-month skill, so you can have whatever it might be.
Well,
but
and they might be able to release skill packs where
pay to win.
And that would be the argument against it, but You could say that all of these skill packs, they have their animations and everything like that. You could have these skill packs effectively do the same thing, and then boom, they just look different.
Right.
Or instead of it doing fire damage, it does poison damage. I mean,
See,
we can go down this rabbit trail, but
we already heard from Todd that you buy the game, you have access to everything, and I think they might backtrack on that with archetypes, because that's, to me, the market is set. I mean, people
sell archetypes
because the market's there in the MOBA stream to actually do that. So people actually pay money for that stuff. I think so. I think the market is ready for that. That's not blazing a new trail. And I'm trying to think, and I've been thinking for the last couple hours once this subject was coming up, like, what could they actually sell as a large content drop? I mean, we've been talking about like little cash shop items that you can spend money for. Is there a type of large content drop that you can spend a boatload of money on?
I think it's going to have to be, because the Kickstarter, it funded the dregs, and then they have their new release where they're trying to get the Guild vs. Guild, what's it called, God's Reach, I believe. They're trying to get God's Reach out there. I think it very much they could release a whole new, like Valor is saying, a whole new map, the other part of the world that they want to bring into effect in an expansion pack, being that you have to buy that expansion pack to be able to get into it. Because buying the game now, they promised you what you're going to get. So giving something else outside of that and completing their vision and releasing that in expansions, I would say isn't exactly the Shadows. They corrected me. The chat. Thank you, chat. I think that wouldn't be a bad route to go at all.
Val, I got an idea for you, since you run the community-driven part of LOTD, and you're definitely going to be part of all the tournament-style stuff that's going on with Crowfall. What about the idea of, in order to compete, you have to buy a season pass, $5, $10, or whatever. Everybody's got to register, and maybe there's a cash prize or something like a lot of games do at the end of the tournament.
I could see it. The biggest issue that I have with a system kind of similar to that is you're trying to get a lot of people to buy into it. And so, we'll say a community is, we'll go throw with a large community, 100 people. And, you have the ability, you can win campaigns, and then they send out a message saying, hey, your community can participate in this tournament if everyone pays $5. It's not really a big thing, but you have to get 100 people to $5,
but
or at least a good chunk of them.
I mean, maybe they could do like the first season for free and see what people are doing, and maybe they can guarantee you some sort of gameplay at least.
I do.
You buy in a poker tournament.
I think it'd be too small. I think you'd be attracting a smaller audience than you would be. I mean, you could. But it'd be very small. You'd be targeting a very small percentage of the people playing the game. And when you come up with like monetization plans, they can't target a small fraction of people, or they're just not going to be that advantageous to even set up.
I think it might be able to work if you do the first season. You say that this first season is free to participate in, and every subsequent season is like a $5. You have to buy a $5 pass, or whatever the amount of money is. So you set the precedent at the start. And the only thing I could think of that would make it very interesting, and let's say Riot held a contest that they had a regional tournament, online tournament, where you had buy-in for like $5, and the eventual winner of that tournament that was North America, Europe, etc., had a place in the LCS for a season. Like, you had to go through all of that to compete at the very end. But you're competing with thousands of people, and you're playing for months and months and months, and all that type of. Let's say the infrastructure was good enough for that. Would that be something that 1 million people would pay into just to try?
I don't think you'd get 1 million people to pay into it. I think you'd get a small percentage of. Like I said, it's
not going to be everybody.
This is an MMO. And by all, I love esports. I love competition and tournaments, but there's going to be a vast majority of people that they're not interested in that at all.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying everybody.
So it's very small. I think taking that concept and actually applying tournament tickets and putting that part of a VIP status, you accrue so many, then you could try to sell more VIP side of the
It's-
house, like
it's
VIP
the same
monthly
thing, though.
things.
I think.
It,
I mean,
it is, but you're putting it into a concept that they already have. So there's other incentives for VIP. It
that's a good
attracts
idea.
your tournament guys, and it also helps you with your progression and character slots and all that kind of stuff. I think what they need
That's
to
a
do
great
is
idea,
attack
actually.
the idea of what they already have in their hand, and they have the VIP status, they have the pay to lose, they have cosmetics available. But if they start to kind of wander out too far and make new concepts or pay in to attract just a smaller percentage of players and the population, I don't think that's going to be a very good monetization plan by any means. I think attracting a large majority of the people through maybe a VIP monthly subscription and have tournament tickets included in it, that could be a thing, because some people may only get the VIP for the tournament tickets, and then you're still charging them a monthly fee for that. And then other people are going to buy the VIP because they want the other incentives.
So essentially, you're just sweetening the deal for the VIP ticket, which is
Exactly.
good. I mean, this conversation is difficult, and I'm kind of reviewing the thread that it kind of spawned this idea for me, and no one's really coming up with anything decent or what could be.
They need to sell us hats.
Hats.
You know?
10,000 million.
I
hats.
would buy that. Valor would buy me a hat for sure.
I'd
know
buy
it.
you a
Crowfall
hat. I
gear.
would buy you a
Just
hat.
me.
Some swag.
Just you. I wouldn't buy me one. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do to monetize it if they feel the need to. You never know. The VIP might be more than they need, and fantastic. Leading up to the game, they're going to be selling stuff in the cash shop. They can't get too crazy, but I feel that what they're trying to do is they're trying to cater to the crowd who enjoys buying stuff from the cash shops, while still building a game for people that maybe are less focused on how things look and how they work.
Yeah, so I think we can round this out because I think we're kind of ending at this conversation. I think basically, other than the EK cosmetics, skins, archetypes, maybe campaign pass to leave the campaign and go to another one, kind of like a server change in like a World of Warcraft type of game. Maybe a barbershop ticket where you can change the look of your character. Some people like messing around with that stuff.
I think
cosmetic mounts.
Yeah, mounts are going to be huge in this game. I think selling mounts is going to be one.
You have to be careful with that, though. As long as the mounts have like a costume slot or something that you can put it in, because all mounts are going to be all sorts of different type of different stuff. So you have to be careful with that. And I think just sweeten the VIP deal. I don't think there's any content type, just due to the nature of the game, that can actually be an expansion. And maybe they won't need that because the other revenue is good enough for them. So let's move on. And I don't know how much we can actually talk about this, but I thought it was kind of a funny topic. Does the game like Crowfall need actual lore? And Lakes, we'll start with you on this one.
So, I personally read lore. I'm not a fan of it, but I still read it because it's part of the game. I don't know. I'm bored, I guess. But all games, for the most part, have lore.
Well, they have it.
If MOBAs have lore,
that's true,
which is not needed by any means, an MMO where you have people like buying into their character and the whole concept behind it, I would say yes. That fits the more MMO crowd than it does anything else. So not having a
reason,
a motive,
like.
You need it. Lore is part of an MMO.
Sure.
I would say not having lore would be something that I would be kind of curious. You'd actually make a lot of people mad, I'm assuming.
And I'm going to go ahead and Valor say you agree completely with that statement? For the most part?
For me, the only time I dig into lore is when I think it'll give me a better understanding of how the character operates. I did read the lore. I did respond to it with a couple of questions asking, hey, how could this potentially unfold? And, sure enough, I threw in a couple ways to maybe be able to get a little bit more information out of them. That's what I do. But, overall, I'm not a fan. I've gotten to a point where, for me, games are going there, enjoying the company of my friends while ruining someone else's experience in a game. And that's what I enjoy doing. Yep. So I don't play single player games anymore, and I just can't get myself involved in that. If I wanted to really get in and enjoy a story, You know, I'm going to go watch a TV show. If I want to go in and create a story, I'm going to get into PvP, and that's what I prefer.
I'm a cynical son of a bitch. I mean, I've played enough MMOs that they're all basically the same for me. As long as you do a certain amount of things, you get a little bit more powerful, and then you go kill people or kill things, and that's basically it. And no MMO has really portrayed the story very well to the player, except for maybe the Old Republic, because you were forced to watch cutscenes all the time. It was actually it's a pretty good experience. Now, the underlying question that I had to all this is, yeah, I mean, lore is great. It's basically fan fiction because none of the ace people are professional writers. They're all game developers and fans of lots of fantasy novels. So it's basically I hesitate to call it unprofessional because that's kind of rude, but it's not professional writing. I mean, they're not established authors or anything else like that. So they're all doing a great job, and it's well written. It conveys the message. But the underlying question is, how does lore, or how could you fit lore into a game like Crowfall and create a story or create an overall arc to it that will affect your gameplay?
I think that the lore for Crowfall is not important to me personally, but I think it's important to the game to kind of round up a lot of their concepts with the alliances and the gods and their different modes and the hunger and all that kind of concept of their game revolves around the lore making sense. And to some people, they need that. They need to understand why it is the way that it is. And the lore fits Crowfall, I think, more like back in the day, like everyone, we probably all played Guild Wars 2 at some point, a vast majority of us. How many of you guys skipped the cutscenes? I did. Every one of them. I just clicked exit, whatever, skipped them.
I watched the first to level 20 ones, and then I was like, this is terrible writing.
Everyone watches the first, hour, and then you're like,
it's
okay.
not
Wait,
important.
the prince dies? What?
Like,
Spoiler
does it
alert.
matter? Does it matter in Guild Wars? It doesn't matter. But in Crowfall, explaining why you're doing something and why there's so many different, or the hunger in general, I think it means more to Crowfall than it does other MMOs. So that would be my, yes, Crowfall needs it. Do I care about it? Not really.
Yeah. Well, and I agree, and I think that if you look at the different bands and why are campaigns separate, by having the story, you explain all of that without having to answer those questions directly on the forums.
True.
Which, you know what, they're going to end up having to do anyway, because there's going to be that person who shows up and says, hey, I love this game. This game's great. What is it? And
it helps. I mean, it also helps make your website look really nice and kind of thematic and everything else. You're just not selling a game where you kill people. So it adds to the salesmanship of the whole thing, I think. And I think if they do it properly, where you do enough in-game stuff where you visually see it, and you're not watching cutscenes or reading text scrolls or quest log crap and all that other stuff, you actually see represented in the game. If the game is actually fun to play and you spend a lot of time playing it, it adds a nice little, even to just a bunch of power gamers like ourselves that just play the game and don't really care about anything else and just want to have fun, it adds a little bit more to the excitement of the game where you're kind of enveloped in a storyline, I think. And as long as it's kind of unobtrusive, but you don't have to go out of your way to you're going to some dungeon and there's some a dungeon creator put a scroll on the bottom floor in a dead end and only 5 people have ever bothered to read it and everybody has some kind of inside joke type of thing. So
I think that someone pointed out that mandatory lore is bad, optional is good, right? Overall, summed up his comment, and I agree. I think the way that Crowfall should do lore is not kind of force it down my throat while I'm playing the game, but maybe make YouTube series videos or something, kind of explain it. Because if it's forced down my throat, that's when I resent it even more. Like, I'm like, you're making me watch this, Todd?
There we go. There it is.
That's how you really feel.
Now,
you know what I mean? But YouTube videos, make a series of it. It could be cool.
I mean, I've got nothing against that concept of doing some YouTube videos. I don't know that we'll necessarily get it, but
it actually costs money to do it right, though. A decent amount of money, all the animation and stuff.
But I've seen people on the forums and they've said, oh, we want to incorporate RP into this. There's actually a little back and forth where someone tried saying someone said there's no RP in this game. None. It's impossible. You can't RP in this game. It's like, no, you can RP.
Which game? This
Riot-
okay. This is
Riot
our
Points?
next. This is our next
Or role play.
role play.
Yeah.
This is probably another topic. The next
No,
topic that
we-
we're going.
we-
Is this
we
a
can-
segue?
we can-
We're segueing. I think.
Segueing. And so with that, it was really frustrating. I don't know. What, Dragon, take us to the next topic.
Well, we're talking about. I think a couple things have gone on in the last week or two. This is, what's the most frustrating part of the community? I know, Val, you're like neck deep into it. I'm probably up to my knees, and Lake kind of dips his toes in every once in a while when Valor posts a link in our discussion chats. But what has you face palming the first? Valor, I'm gonna save you a little bit because we need to give you your time.
Okay.
And I think Lakes can kind of give us a couple bits because he hasn't been so deep into it as Valor has. Go ahead.
So, just to recap on the question, right? The most like face palming thing about the community.
Why are you posting this? Oh, why?
So, I guess that's my face palm. Like exactly that right there. Like, why do you post the things that you post? I think the most face palming thing is like personally posting to get a reaction out of people. Which I mean, that's human nature. It's
Sure.
the forums. It's the way it is. But like. The other thing I facepalm the most is like, do people even read? Like, do you read, bro? Like, they just said that last week. It was an FAQ last month, and you're still posting like no, that's not gonna happen. Like, that's the most facepalming thing. Like, bro, just read. Figure it out. Read. Quit making yourself look like an idiot. So I don't feel like one while I read your shit.
Before I go to Valor, I just want to say make sure you get on GameVox. Instructions are below the show. If you follow us and you haven't followed us yet, make sure you hit the, I guess it's the follow button or the subscribe button or whatever it is. The little heart there, and we have a nice little pop-up everybody can watch, and then all that other stuff. And apparently, if you're not watching this live, you're watching this on YouTube, everybody's tuning out just because I have a Giants hat on.
I mean,
What's going on with that?
This is a fact.
Okay.
Wait,
In any case,
you have a Giants hat on?
I'll turn to the camera so you can see on the other camera.
Man. No,
There we go.
It's not. Oh man.
All right,
Anyway.
another show without Lakes. Son of a bitch. All right, Valor, go ahead. What's
All right,
your
yeah.
most frustrating part? Go ahead. Just
Most
let it out.
frustrating-
This is a
yeah.
therapeutic session for you.
The most frustrating thing for me is people who take information, misinterpret it, and present it as fact. And one of the things that we all got to experience was the response to an MMORPG.
Oh, you bringing this up
column.
first? Oh, I was hoping you'd save this last.
Well,
okay,
we're
let's
just
dive
told
right into it. Just
you know,
go into it.
Yeah, no, not yet. So
Oh.
this
Oh,
response
tease.
took place.
Let me get comfortable.
That being said,
We're back.
that was by far and away not the first or the worst of offenders. And, and I've come across this way. When you take information, you misinterpret it, you present it as fact, and you say, this is how it is. I'm tired of people who are going on the forum saying, Crowfall is going to be like this. Crowfall is going to have crazy filters. Crowfall is going to restrict what people can do. Crowfall is going to have all of these other, neat PvE things or quests, and, it hasn't been said that it's not in there. Guys, we don't know.
Stop.
We don't know.
Stop.
We don't know. We don't know. I do my best to, when I preface a thread, to say, hey, from what I understand, this is what I get.
Mm-hmm.
Please correct me. At least throw that on there before coming up with outlandish and ridiculous scenarios.
Right. Let's get specific, please.
Okay, so
Call somebody out.
Yeah, so Viking Nail, he's come up. Somebody hit
Lake's
me up
best
with
friend.
there's a picture that we need to share. It just ties it all together. So Viking Nail, very passionate.
Do you have that link? I'll put it on the stream.
Well, once I get it, I'm sure somebody will send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Viking now?
like, oh man, somebody get him some oxy or something. Chill out, Lake. He had a post entirely dedicated to the possibility of quests in Crowfall, and even though it was never specifically said quests won't be in Crowfall, we were able to, for the most part, infer that there were not going to be any quests in Crowfall. That seems pretty obvious. Apparently, that was a bit of a challenge, and I think that turned into like a 14-page thread about
no one has anything better to do.
Look, there's not going to be quests, and him saying, "Prove me wrong," and everyone saying, "We don't have to prove you wrong." It was back and forth.
Like, who cares?
It's arguing over quests in a PvP game. I mean,
quests won't be in Crowfall. Confirmed.
By the by, quests won't.
There you go. Thank you,
won't
Todd.
Be in Crowfall. Actually, Gordon also said that, but
Todd just posted it now. You guys seen it here at Crowns and Crows 2015.
Okay.
So, were we talking about this last episode about quests or daily quests or something like that?
We dabbled. All right, we dabbled. And so it was just, for me, it gets frustrating to see things because I spend so much time researching content for our show that I feel I have at least a general understanding of things.
Lunch breaks.
And I say, hey, at least read what's out there. If you don't know what's out there, ask. And if somebody gives you a response, don't just start arguing with them because it's not in line with what you want. That is my biggest problem with the forums. And you know what? I brought up Viking Nail. Let's see if I can go ahead and throw that in there. Let's see if that pulls up. That pulls up. All right. From this day forward, this is how you will always imagine him anytime you read Viking Nail. And that is attributed to somebody in the Crowfall Slack channel. I don't remember who found it, but click that link, read Viking Nail, and always imagine that whenever you see a post by him.
There you go.
But
popped it up on stream.
He's not the only one. We get this from all sides. We have a lot of the people who are very aggressive on the forums and state, "Oh, Crowfall is going to be this, unbelievable, hardcore, badass game. If you don't like it, just shut the fuck up and get on with yourself."
It's angry valor right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be more than that.
You know what made stop for a second. The one post I think that made you more angry than anything else was the MMORPG post listing all the different fan sites and sources.
Yeah,
you went on.
Yeah, that
I tirade a lot.
Well, I know that a lot of the people who are following Crowfall are capable of putting out better content than that. And the individuals, like Sarkhan, I had a little PM with him. Nice guy. I really, I appreciate it. He talked to me. He said, "Yeah, I understand where, the hang-up was. I understand, how it was taken. And, hey, I appreciate you just being level-headed about it." I have no problem with the people. It is
level-headed's
when you're
not
putting
fun.
out content, guys. If you're trying to help the community, don't just put out content to get your name out there.
Well, no, there's a difference here. I'm going to interject because if you're going to post like a thread somewhere, like here's the great places to follow Crowfall, and it's on your personal blog or it's on your guild website or it's on the main forums, whatever. I don't really care if it's the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world because the platform is on. It's your own opinion. What gets me is when you put something on MMORPG.com, which adds a little bit of weight to it, as much as game journalism has any type of weight, and it gets repeated, and it gets indexed in Google and everything else. So instead of you go to somebody's random webpage, like here are the best places, you can look, it's like, who is this guy and why is he writing on some random website? But now you're going to MMORPG.com, and it adds a little bit of supposed legitimacy to it. And that's really the problem that I have.
Yeah.
I don't care about content or anything else like that. It's where it's displayed that, if you're running on an old school, long time website, do a little bit of homework, and don't link like 5 sites that haven't been updated in a quarter of a year. Yeah. Just don't do that.
Well, yeah, and let's see. Primal brought it up.
Who?
Primal.
Who?
Primal. Yeah, right. So this one particular poster who has no reputation, he brought up the fact that I was displeased about the placement, and it's when you're associating active content with inactive content, You know,
it dilutes
I don't
it.
want people to get into a list and just be like, oh, this is complete garbage. It buries good information. So, with that being said, you know, those are you pinged on a couple of things that kind of annoy me. You know, guys, we do this show because one, we enjoy it, and two, you know, it's interesting. It provides content for Crowfall, and you know, it gives Dragon a place where he can display his Giants hat without getting yelled at.
I don't even know what that means. But I mean, and then you go to the other MMORPG article, and that it was written by one of the guys from Golden Glory, and this is my facepalm moment, because
Is this it? I mean, is this the thing that?
This is
then we'd be in agreement.
What's that?
If this is your face palm of the community.
Right, so far, number one.
Okay.
You mentioned it. I'm going to start though, because you had a very reasoned response. I mean, you were the OP of that response thread, and I just, to me, and maybe some of the devs listening might want to. I doubt they're going to want to comment on it at all, but it all goes back to where it was posted. Posted on MMORPG.com, it has weight to it, because then the guys that run the Crowfall game Twitter account, they see a major news outlet posting about their game, they're going to retweet it because it gets them press, which is always good for in a PR situation. But the thread, the article itself took a couple guesses, added a couple other guesses, and added a couple other guesses to it, and there was a lot of hand-wringing about it. It was basically, we're not going to be able to re-roll these, you know, you can train 50% up and 50% passive, and it doesn't work this way, there's going to be flavor of the month build, and people are going to be changing all the time. And it's like, first of all, some of that stuff has been described before, and it's nothing like that. We don't even have to go into that. But, like, you're getting all anxious and angsty and angry and, like, I don't want to follow this game. Maybe he wasn't saying I want to follow, but the responses are, I don't want to follow this game anymore, this is terrible. And, I mean, the game is in, like, pre-production. Like, I would imagine 80% of the design documents are on a whiteboard somewhere right now, like all the details. So what they can change that. A lot of that shit just changes over time. And then
they already changed. They changed combat. They
Yeah.
started over from scratch and said, you know what, guys, we started off with something that kind of looked good to begin with. We were somewhat happy, but we weren't really sold on it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You guys are right. We're going to go with, you know, something new because we weren't really happy with it to begin with.
And, like, things constantly change during development cycle. I mean, what sounds good on paper doesn't actually work in actuality. And the main reason why I don't like this is the reason why developers do not talk about what they're working on right now until it's, like, finalized and iterated on, because they're going to have guys write articles on MMORPG.com misrepresenting their game, talking about all the different concerns they're going to have, and some random person that maybe heard of Crowfall once a couple months ago comes across this article like, oh, that's terrible. I was going to join the Kickstarter. I was going to become a follower or whatever. I'm just going to ignore it now.
Yep.
And that's the problem I have.
I think so. I stay out of this one just a little bit on purpose. But looking in, I think one of the reasons why they got the Crowfall representation is not because the article was that great. It's more along the lines of them showing support for people doing content for their game, regardless of how bad it is. Like, I've watched games retweet the ugliest paint picture ever because it's somebody spent 10 seconds drawing a picture of
spent 10
like
hours
seeing
drawing
a hat.
I'm not blaming Crowfall for retweeting it.
Right. But that's my point. Is like, it's content, good or bad. It was out there, and to be honest, I think the article itself was a misrepresentation of, I think, Sarkhan's
Post.
Like, my personal opinion of him, because I think that he's a pretty intelligent person when it comes to, like, a lot of crafting and the whole game completion type status. Like, that's where he falls into line where I think some of his ideas are really great. But I think when he started to talk a little bit about combat and some other things, I felt like that was just a little out of his realm, to where it was very loose and not well put together. And I think that's probably the worst part. I just read the grilled cheese thing and it made me laugh. So
He got you.
I think that's I got owned by Primal on my show. Dang it. But I feel like that's probably the worst
Yeah.
like representation that he could have possibly had. Because normally I could sit back and I'm like, hey, if I have questions about this kind of stuff, he's generally the person I go to.
I'm not.
I think it was outside of the realm.
I mean, I just got it's frustrating for me. It wasn't. I mean, it probably sounded way too personal, but it's just like I don't like it when people start doing guesswork and like our rule with what ifs on the show. I do it for a reason, so we don't
limit it as much as we can.
And it's because of posts like that. I mean, like, do we really want to spend the next 20 minutes talking about like how skills are going to be training when we don't know
really
anything?
Spend 10 minutes reading it?
I skipped it.
Because if you did,
I read every word. Actually, I read it a couple of times.
Yeah, it's tough. It's the one reason why even in Kickstarters like this, there's limited information at this phase because and I'm impressed that they're going to be showing streams of the game in a non-NDA environment, which is interesting. So that's my main facepalm. I mean, there's plenty more because that's there's silly things in every community, but that's the only thing that's just like
we're in the fledgling stage of this entire game, this entire project, and all these massive conclusions are being drawn about the entire game based off of what's happened in the past 30 days. Yeah, some of that can there is always reason. People can always have an opinion. I'm sorry for taking 10 seconds to complete a sentence there. People can always have an opinion. Nothing against that.
No,
but don't fold your cards on a game that's not over. Also,
that's silly
because
too.
Todd,
a lot of people do though.
People do. And that was my analogy, which reminded me. Todd in his in his lore post.
Is it over there? Over there?
Which is over that direction.
Over that way.
That there yonder.
He uses an analogy to explain another analogy.
I don't
know if anyone else picked up on that.
Nope.
But,
Dude, Todd and his analogies, man. I swear.
I was reading through it and I was like, wait a second. Did that just happen? I'm pretty sure he just used one analogy to explain another analogy, and then, oh man.
This analogy is like a fire hydrant. It's red and it squirts out water. Obviously, that's what it means.
So here we go. And just real brief. Paraphrasing. Overall narrative of Crowfall Universe is like a patchwork quilt, i.e., look into this world through a bunch of different lenses, surfacing but not revealing the depth we have planned.
What does it mean? Double rainbow.
I was like,
Double rainbow.
What does it mean?
I was just, oh man. I was like, wait. Did we go from what? 5D friend. Oh man! All right.
There's your response from Todd there. He has to go
myself.
5 deep. He has to go like Inception level on those analogies. Unfortunately, he never writes them down. He's probably in person. You need to get him some more whiskey there, Valor. Get another bottle out.
Oh man!
I had to mute myself there. This is.
Are you crying?
Good. Dude.
Would it be the first time?
I thought it was funny to begin with.
All right. Well, I mean that's the community in a nutshell. I mean you're going to have craziness in any pregame stuff because no one has anything. Most people have something better to do. That's why the traffic in the forums has gone down, which everybody's angsty about. And then let's go
ahead. No, we need to take this for a second.
Okay.
We just said most people have better things to do.
Yes.
So the people who are actively posting every day are doing so because they don't have anything better to do.
No.
That is what can be inferred. We bring that full
No,
circle.
I agree with you. Yes.
Oh, okay. There we go.
They don't have anything better to do.
I have what 130 posts, and I think that
that's way too much.
60 of them came through me trying to explain something to literally Deadhead.
Probably.
Besides that, I don't post very often. And the posts that I get involved in with the community are generally ones that mean something, like combat talk or different mechanics of the game. But when people are talking about this or that and squirrels climb trees for nuts, I don't care, man. What does it mean?
No, but I think we have a little bit of time left, and I guess at halfway through the day, Pan posted a thread asking for questions for combat. So, for the next combat chat that Tully and Thomas do, Lakes, I know we didn't really prep any of this because I kind of added at the very end of the pre-show. What would be the one question that you want answered in the combat chat at this point of development? Do you have one?
It's so hard to say because the combat that I have seen in the past is not the combat that is out and they're working on now.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like asking one question.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it. So there's a lot of different things, and a lot of my stuff got cleared up. I really like micro mechanics within combat, so that would be. And I know that
that's not a question. It's a topic.
All that. So, my question wouldn't be geared towards that. Do have some questions. This isn't a top priority for me, but I really care about animations and
big,
animation telegraphs and animation locks. All into one summary question, because those are two things that I care about right now with the combat. Is, are we going to have animation locks? If so, how in depth are they going to be? And are we going to have telegraphs? Because
they're not. They're not. I don't think I think they said in the last combat chat where they referenced your shadow analogy that it's going to become more natural. Okay, Val, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, they went through a little bit of that, and what would have been helpful for Lake is to link this thread, which hasn't been linked yet. So
always growing the community there, Valor. Good job.
Yeah, well, I mean, more so
You're on top of things.
It's important for anyone who wants to chime in on questions. I think that my big one actually had to do with more how do they handle addressing the quote-unquote naked player and their effectiveness in PvP if you're attacking somebody's stronghold.
Tackling.
Yeah, and so for me, the way I get to that answer is by asking, can they speak to the need for ammunition in order to use both arrows or magic? Can they do that? If they do that, what that'll tell us is if you come fresh out of respawn, you're not going to be able to be at full capacity without hitting up your bank first. You might be able to have a basic weapon.
So are you answering your own question right now?
No, I mean we don't know. We do not know whether any of these.
So your effectiveness of a naked character.
Yeah, I mean that's what it'll get to.
Okay.
So.
My question would be, if I posted like 13 questions and each of them had like subparts to it, and maybe I'll read them in the after show and you can all call me a nerd. The number one question I have, and a lot of different combat schemes have had randomness in them and have slowly transitioned away from them. And the question essentially is like, do you plan on basing your combat on a pure random number situation where it's just like you like the old school the old school like WoW Shaman where it had like the Wind Fury proc and just mess people's day up because you had like the double proc and it killed somebody but it only happens 5% of the time, or like the old school WoW Paladin that allowed for you're just waiting for that proc to actually do damage, and if you don't get those procs or you don't get that crit, you're useless essentially.
I think that, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
That may be your question, but I know Thomas and I have had back and forth about RNG in the past.
Yep.
And I know he's against it. So
sure.
I think if anything, Thomas does have a lot of pull in the combat system, that the RNG is going to be at a
right, but
not at all, or at a very minimal type thing.
But
then
go. No. The deeper part of the question is it's just not like the RNG like crit or proc type of thing. It's about predictability and predictability in a play pattern essentially. Is your play for your class predicated on something happening first, and then you can't predict what you're going to do, or is your gameplay going to be more erratic? I mean, yes, the simple question is yes, we don't want a lot. Classes based just on critting or just based on a certain proc that they put on their weapon or something like that. But you can build a lot of characters around randomness of procs or randomness of effects or waiting for something to happen so you can react to it. It's all about game pattern predictability, I think, and I think that's the core
I
of a
think
larger
what
issue.
throws that off is the way that their combat combo system's going to work, and different skills building up to other skills.
Sure.
Is it's not going to be that predictable because you can bait a lot of your stuff.
Oh
Like,
yeah, but that's part of a gameplay pattern that is predictable in itself. I mean, you have
I guess, but
responses in your
there's
tool set.
you could cancel a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's predictable to a sense, but it's very much you can bait a lot of things. And I think that's the in-depth combat system. Like it's not going to be erratic, like you just
Mm-hmm.
click and mash a bunch of buttons, but I think it's going to have some sort of pattern that can be canceled with continuing on to another
Well,
pattern.
I'm not
would be my
talking about
biggest
the
guess.
unexpected. There's a difference between, in my view of things, unexpectedness and randomness. When a player does something, you can read it and react to it, and that's a variable right there that you have to play well, and that's hopefully going to be in the game because that makes the game well made, I think. And you agree with that? You just said it. But the randomness where either you or another player is not controlling the direction the combat's going, something has to happen. Like the simplest version, I can't remember the actual examples I had in my mind when I wrote that, but like the easiest one is the Shaman Wind Fury proc back in Vanilla WoW in PvP. Like that would just decimate somebody and wreck somebody. And what Warcraft did was essentially they said that procs has an internal cooldown of 10 seconds that you never see, so it procs once every 10 seconds. So it's not random anymore. It's not like a 5% chance to proc, and you might get unlucky and never see it proc. But now it definitely procs once every 10 seconds, 5 seconds. So there's those internal mechanisms, and that's kind of where I'm getting at with the whole thing.
Right. I'm a fan of passives, being passive attacks or
Sure.
some sort of stacking attack to where it's not random. I know it's going to happen. I'm a fan of that. I like because it makes your systems and your fluidity of being
Yeah.
able to continue your combat at a pace to put out the max DPS and get those procs over a set period of time to up your DPS chart. Like that kind of stuff is fun, and it's fun managing that style. Like I think I talked about it last time when we were talking about stacks in the Confessor and last show. Like that kind of stuff, I really do enjoy those kinds of mechanics because it brings a depth to the PvP. So I agree with your whole basis on that. I mean, that's something I'm interested in as well. It's like how passives and how many passives do they plan on having? Whether it's you can have multiple passives. Maybe they're more of a like a discipline style passive. Like once you unlock this, then this will always happen. So I'm interested to see how they incorporate actually their disciplines into how many skills you can have as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's some chat going into the game where Thomas was mentioning that the internal cooldown method that I mentioned, obviously wasn't random and they kind of scaled it. I mean, that's the whole point. I think to the whole discussion is we like reactive abilities, like something happened and you react to it. That's a good gameplay method. But I think what a lot of I always love reading the Riot game development blogs when they talk about class balance and class pattern stuff. It's really interesting methodology. They go through designing a skill set, and they have a lot of great points, and they try to take the randomness out of the play pattern, and I think that's going to be a key factor in designing archetypes, and that's basically the only question. I mean, we can go on for
Did you
hours.
know?
There was. Go
What?
ahead, Lake, but I'm gonna keep this going.
All right.
Mine's off topic, so go.
Okay,
about it.
so there was actually a suggestion. Somebody wanted one-shot kills
No.
in Crowfall. They said, it could be in certain scenarios. It would be a proc, where you would crit extra damage and you just hope that it hit. I was vehemently against it. Some people were for it. They said that if you could get yourself into that position, you should be able to do that. I can't, in my own mind, envision how you would make that work within Crowfall. But for me, I would rather see the skill of a player factor into whether you live or die, as opposed to random chance. And that has usually been my just very baseline explanation for why I don't like to see a lot of crits or percentage chance for damage. Okay, give me a little bit of a range, but for the most part, you know what? Let players decide who wins. Don't let it just be some random lightning bolt that strikes you, being what would be the range damage.
This is a big thing from Riot that I enjoy, and one of their biggest key factors is there has to be you have to give players the ability to react. You have to give some playability to it. There has to be some defense to it. So if somebody does something, you can't get stun locked to death and you go 0 to 100 unless you're completely outnumbered or outclassed or whatever.
Yeah.
But given equal skill, you have to have the ability to react and either get away or block or something else like that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Lex. You're bouncing.
Well, so I think that works in more of a MOBA environment.
Sure. Well,
I
it's
think
PvP environment, though.
Right. Well, I think in an MMO environment, the only time I would agree with the one-shot kill is if somebody has the ability to blow up a mountain and it lands on you. Like,
Yes,
that's
okay, fine.
obvious. One-shot kill, you're
Yes.
dead. Congratulations. Like, yes, you happen to be in the right place at the right
If you
time.
walk underneath a landslide,
And somebody walked underneath it, you should die. One shot, one
I'm
kill.
okay with
that
that.
makes sense. But like Valerie was saying, I don't like the fact that if someone go ahead and they do 3 whirl kicks and jump up in the tree and do this, and then finally they're able to do this last attack and one shot somebody, that's stupid
Yeah.
in my mind. I think it's awful. But if somebody knocks a mountain on top of you, you should die.
or you know,
That's not really a one-shot, though, because
A
you spent
wall.
like 5 hours like chiseling the mountain down to like drop on somebody. You got to prep that. That's
we've got
not a
boxes.
one-shot.
Use them. That'd be awesome,
Right, like use the voxels. That
Yes.
should be like your one shot.
Drop
you
a
know?
bridge on somebody. Yeah, you should die from that.
I think that's really the kind of concepts if they were to do a one shot kill, but like some sort of finishing move to where you built up this huge arsenal of all your combos being to this pinnacle point where you can use this one skill and kill somebody. I think that's a little absurd. Like
You should be able to blow somebody up with a really good skill combo, but not 100-0 somebody.
combinations, yes. And I agree that there a lot of times there should be an ability to outplay.
Outplay,
like you
that
were
was the
saying-
word I was thinking of. I couldn't think of that
that
word.
you were saying,
Yep.
not Valor, but Dragon. But I do feel like in an MMO environment, if you catch yourself in the wrong place, wrong time, you shouldn't be able to outplay anything because you put yourself in the wrong situation.
Well,
to
right.
begin
I
with.
mean, I'm usually talking about, equal footing, 1v1, similar skill, similar power.
Right, but if
because-
you're running around with a support class and I'm running around with an assassin,
Right,
and you're
yeah,
by
I mean,
yourself-
like,
yeah,
that's-
like that kind of scenario, I totally get.
It's same thing in League. They do the same thing. If you're walking around with like a weak support and an assassin catches you, I mean, yeah, you're going to get 100-0 anyway. I mean, in any case, I think, like you said, there's a lot of nuances and stuff like that because it's an evolving game. But I think the general purpose or the general sense, we agree with each other for the most part. We've hit the hour mark. So I think we're going to wrap up here. I think we hit up all of our points. Some people are talking about reagents from UO and stuff like that. That's actually a pretty cool topic. Maybe we'll discuss that next week. I like that. Make sure you follow us on all the different social medias, at Crowns and Crows on Twitter, crownsandcrows@gmail.com. Maybe we'll have some mailbag stuff next week. We'll empty that out. We've got some kind of trickles, questions coming in. Make sure you follow us. You've been seeing Valor's pretty face pop up there rapping every time somebody follows. We had 2 of those today. Thank you for following and joining the community, guys. That's it. I think any other information, you can find it below. Hop on GameVox. We're going to the after show. You can join in. Thanks, guys. See you next week, Tuesdays, 8:30 Eastern. Have a good one.
Happy birthday, last girl.
See you guys.